In this video, I'll be reviewing Martina Cole's book, The Runaway. If you're new to the channel, I have this playlist series called Rereading as an Adult. I've been slowly rereading some of my favourite books from my teenage and young adult years. The latest edition is The Runaway. This book was my favourite book of all time as a teenager. It isn't now though. Before I get into it, please like and subscribe and tell us what you think in the comments. There is something for everyone on this channel, I guarantee it. For the scores, The Runaway gets the following: plot 50, characters 53, emotional impact 30, pacing 40, writing style 20. I'll get into this some more later, it's not the best. Themes 80, this book touches on many heavy themes. I mean, it actually crams it in. Uniqueness 50, book cover 55, overall score 45.85. This book follows two main characters, Kathy and Eamon. They are step siblings with crazy messed up parents. Kathy's mum is a prostitute who actually likes her job, and Eamon's dad is basically a lowlife living off her. At the beginning of the book, we follow this makeshift family as they live in poverty in East London. The family dynamic is seen in lines like this one: "You never refused an order in this house, even when it sounded like a request. If you wanted to get through the night, you jumped when they told you to jump. Simple as that." As the story develops, the primary location shifts to Soho in New York. We follow the lives of these kids as they are separated and live two very different lives, but yet they're still always very much intertwined. Eamon and Kathy go down different routes, but they're still in the criminal underworld. But let me talk about the characters for a minute. Eamon is scum, basically, and Kathy is naive. I hated that she got more naive as she aged, to be honest. She showed a lot more tact and discipline as a child, knowing that she grew up too fast because her mum was a prostitute who was also a slob as well. Her mum didn't cook, she didn't do anything. Kathy was one who really took care of everything. Eamon becomes more of a villain as the story progresses. He is knee deep in the criminal underworld, and with that, the book contains a lot of violence, rape scenes, abuse, incest, and general criminality. There is one hilarious scene that is so British, it's crazy. Some guy is basically getting beaten up by a police officer. This guy is connected. Well, both men are connected to the criminal underworld, and the wife knows this too. She's present while her husband is getting beaten up. So as her husband is getting beaten up for information in their own home, she goes to the kitchen and puts the kettle on, as you do. Anyway, the beating continues and she pops her head into the room that they're in and asks if anyone would like a cuppa. The policeman says yes, so casually, like he's not beating the shit out of this guy. Anyway, if you read this book, you know what special policeman I'm talking about. But that whole scene really stood out. It was hilarious. There's not a lot of funny moments in this book, but this just quintessential British scene of just putting a cuppa on and just not making a fuss, even in the criminal underworld, you know, the general British collective philosophy of not making a fuss is still present. And of course, everyone needs a cup of tea. So yeah, but that was hilarious. But overall, this reread was very weird for me. As I said, this was my favorite book of all time as a teenager. I loved this book, and I was very apprehensive about reading it again because I knew the score would go down. In my heart, I knew it. I just didn't know by how much, and it basically got cut in half. This reread has also put me off rereading some of my more treasured books. There are a bunch of Martina Cole and Jeffrey Archer books that I should reread, but I don't think I will anymore. Or I'm gonna wait until I am old as hell, and then I might reread it. I think the biggest thing is that my taste for this kind of book just isn't there anymore. I love reading fantasy these days and just other stuff besides this, and I think that's the biggest reason why this reread was a bit, for me. The pace and writing style was just not there, to be honest. I'm struggling to determine if that is a Martina Cole thing or if it's because of my adult literary taste thing. For example, Kathy in the book, she goes through so much, but because this book is broken up in 6 parts, when she's in certain situations, Martina Cole doesn't really stay there long enough at all to really sort of, really grasp the implications of how this messed up situation can affect a child. Which is strange because this book is over 500 pages long and we get numerous time jumps between each part of the book. The time jumps were done well enough, but again, within the 6 parts, there just isn't enough within each section to really flesh out the characters. It's kind of weird. I felt guilty at times with this book because most of the time I didn't want to pick it up when it was time to read it. It wasn't like the story was bad or anything like that. I don't know, it was just nuts. Especially when I think back to my teenage years, I used to be on the bus home from Walthamstow after, 6th form, just eagerly anticipating going home to read this book. But that was well over a decade ago, and how times have changed. I played football back then, so I never took books out of the house and put it into my bag because it would get muddy with all of my football stuff, but that's neither here nor there. This was a weird one, a very, very weird one. So I'm not sure if I'd recommend it because Martina Cole does like the gritty criminal underworld, East London setting, brutal lifestyle type of books. And she does them well. She's released numerous books and is a highly acclaimed author. And she has a formula, she sticks to it, and it works. And it worked for me as a child when I was consuming so many of her books. I have about, I want to say, nearly 20 Martina Cole books, all of which I read when I was a teenager. Like, I love Martina Cole books. I don't know, I don't think I'll be rereading them because this was my favorite out of all of them. And the score right now is just, it hurts. It really, really hurts. But yeah, it is what it is. If you'd like to see more book reviews, check out my playlist. There'll be something for you, I guarantee it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening.